Hey everyone, I'm John Bozek with Electric Bike Report, and in this review we'll be taking a look at this bike, the Electric Bike Company Model A. The brand is working its way through the alphabet with each of its e-bikes, and in this case the A stands for affordable. Prior to the release of this model, the available Electric Bike Company bikes started at around $2,000, but there was high demand for a lower priced model. This bike makes a few sacrifices to be able to sell for around $1,500, but it still offers a surprisingly thorough and impressive package of features. On top of that, the Model A is built here in the USA with the same care and attention to detail that put Electric Bike Company on the map with their previous models. Some of our first questions with the Model A were these. How did Electric Bike Company bring the cost of this bike down so much? What elements of the bike stand out as being different from their previous models, and did anything important get left out? Stick around while we look at the bike's fullest of specs and then see how it measured up in our standardized tests. Before we get started, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. This helps support the channel and makes it easier for you to see more of our content when we upload new videos. We're always talking about awesome e-bikes like the Model A, and we'd love to help you find one that's right for you. To put this bike in context, let's talk a little bit about Electric Bike Company as a whole. The brand is known for its cruiser-style e-bikes, many of which, including the Model A, have retro styling and comfortable upright riding positioning. Their bikes are also generally known for having an incredible level of customization that extends down to nearly every component. Keep your eyes out for a separate video from us on this soon, but this includes expected things like the color of the frame or the type of saddle, but also gets unusually specific, like the size of the battery or the type of throttle. The company paints all of their bikes in-house too, so the color of every major component can usually be changed. But of course, all of this customization comes at a cost, and the more changes you make, the more expensive an Electric Bike Company e-bike can get. This is where the Model A comes in. In its current form, this bike is only available in a single trim package with a black paint job and all the features we'll talk about today. This makes the bike much faster and easier to produce and assemble, so the company is able to offer it at a significantly lower price. Also, it's worth mentioning that there is currently quite a bit of overlap between the Model A and the Model X, which offers much more customization, but the company does plan to consolidate the two. The bike that we'll be talking about today will remain the base level version though, so if you're watching this and there is no longer a Model X, just know that it has been rolled into the Model A. Another element of the bike that helps to reduce costs is its single-speed drivetrain. This could be seen as a limitation, but it's actually a well-thought-out feature that plays into Electric Bike Company's design intent. The Model A ships as a Class 2 e-bike that can be unlocked to a Class 3, so it has a throttle to help you get up to speed quickly. It also uses a large 58-tooth chainring that allows you to stay engaged with the drivetrain and move the bike faster once you get there. Electric Bike Company's thinking is that between the throttle and the bike's pedal assist system, there should be enough flexibility to make up for the absence of a multi-speed system. The Model A has tons of other features too, some of which we're starting to see more often on e-bikes in the $1,500 price range, and others that are still relatively uncommon. We'll go over all the details on that shortly, but for starters, the bike has a nice commuter package that includes lights, turn signals, and a rear cargo rack with just under 60 pounds of weight capacity. On top of all that, the Model A, like all Electric Company bikes, is painted, assembled, inspected, and tested right here in the USA. They do all of this work, even including building their own wheels at their factory in Newport Beach, California. Every bike even comes with an authentication card that tells you the name of the mechanic who worked on your bike, so you can call and speak with that person directly if you have any questions or concerns. This means that your bike is guaranteed to have a ton of hands-on attention and care, and it also comes with a personal connection. This is something that you are not guaranteed when buying from a foreign brand, and something that you just don't see often in general these days, especially not on a bike that's just $1,500. Let's move on and talk about the Model A's full list of specs so we can dive into its results from our testing. Let's quickly recap the details we already covered about the Model A. It starts off as a Class 2 e-bike with a throttle, a single-speed drivetrain, a cargo rack, lights, and turn signals. The bike uses an MX US 48-volt 500-watt rear hub motor with a cadence sensor, although that can be upgraded to a more natural-feeling torque sensor for an extra $100 or so. The motor is paired with a 48-volt 576 watt-hour battery that is mounted on the curved down tube here. The bike's single-speed drivetrain consists of that 58-tooth chainring that we talked about, as well as a rust-resistant stainless steel chain and an 18-tooth cog on the freewheel. We'll talk more about this later, but that chainring does make pedaling at lower speeds a bit difficult, so just be aware that you will likely want to make use of that throttle quite a bit. I like the pedals on the Model A. They're large and they have a nice rubberized surface, so they fit riders like me who wear larger shoes. They help to keep your feet from slipping off, and they won't bang up your shins too much if you run into them. If we look closer at the rear cargo rack, again, it has a 59.5-pound capacity, and it's also MIK compatible, so it'll fit a wide range of baskets and bags made using MIK specifications. You'll see a tail light integrated with the back end of the rack, which also functions as a brake light. There are also two taillights on the bike seat stays, and these are its turn signals. I always love seeing turn signals on an e-bike. In most cases, I think there's no reason not to include them in some form, and the distribution of the Model A's taillight setup here helps to make sure that all of the lights are going to be visible, even if you have some cargo on the rack. The Model A uses Bengal Aries hydraulic disc brakes with 180mm rotors on both wheels. We'll talk more about their performance in our brake test section, but on e-bikes like the Model A weighing 58 pounds or often way more, hydraulic brake systems like this are a must-have in our opinion, and it's great to see that they weren't an afterthought on such an affordable e-bike. The 24-inch by 3-inch Rhino tires are a little smaller than the 26-inch tires we usually see on other electric bike company models, but they make the bike feel a bit more nimble. They're also puncture resistant thanks to the 3mm thick rubber on the tread sections, which is something we'd just really like to see more often on e-bikes in general. We have to talk about the bike saddle. This is another of Electric Bike Company's trademark features. It's a custom, extra wide and extra thick leather saddle that just really helps to enhance the bike's already comfortable cruiser positioning. I couldn't help but think of it as sort of like sitting on your favorite chair or sofa. It's big, it's soft, and it's super comfy. Up on the front end of the bike, you can see the Model A's 8-inch diameter headlight. This is another great safety feature, and it has a few uncommon elements too. First, there are actually two different lights here, a high beam and a low beam, and it also features an automatic light sensor, so the light is going to kick on right when you need it to. One thing to be aware of, the light is mounted to the head tube, so when you're making a turn, it takes a bit longer than you might expect for that light to swing around and point where you're looking again. You might notice that the Model A has a different handlebar setup than the typical Electric Bike Company cruiser. They chose this BMX style riser bar to appeal to a younger audience, and I have to say that I personally really dig it too. I have a bit of a background riding BMX in my younger days, and I just generally think of this style as putting your hands and wrists at a more natural position than a swept back cruiser bar. There's one other great feature, and that is that the bar can be rotated or angled differently to adjust the reach distance. And if we check out the stem, you'll see that its angle is adjustable too, so that gives you 2 points of variability to really customize how the handlebars feel. Talking about the cockpit now, as I said earlier, there are just a ton of features on the Model A, even with its affordable price tag. It has stamped vegan leather grips that are another trademark of Electric Bike Company. We're typically not a huge fan of these because they can be a bit slippery, but they are pretty comfortable. The Bengal brake levers here are a bit smaller and sportier than we typically see, but I think they match the intended younger audience pretty well. On the left handlebar, there's a button for the electronic horn. a switch for the turn signals, and the main control panel to turn the bike on and off or adjust your pedal assist setting. On the right side, you have the twist throttle and a switch to adjust the headlight between its high and low beam settings. Overall, while we love all of the features included on the Model A, we're not so thrilled about its cockpit layout. The fact that each of its controls are separated out into individual modules makes things feel a little cluttered on handlebars when there's already not a ton of real estate near the grips. We've tested a few e-bikes with a similar variety of features that had most of their buttons and switches condensed onto a single panel, and we think the Model A would really benefit from a similar setup to keep things accessible and also just looking good. To wrap things up, let's look at the bike's centrally mounted LCD display. It's large and colorful, and that makes it really nice and easy to read. It does show quite a lot of information, but I think it does a solid job of prioritizing the important things like battery percentage, speed, and pedal assist level. There are a couple of safety features here too that you'll see every time you turn the bike on. First, there's a user agreement. So if you lend the bike to your second cousin thrice removed and they end up crashing accidentally, you have some legal protection there, which is great. And second, the bike's pedal assist system is deactivated by default, which is shown by a small icon on the main screen. So if you hold the minus button on the system's control panel, that engages the PAS. And while it is an extra step, it makes sure that you're not ever going to be surprised by the bike taking off on you. Before we move on, I want to reiterate just how many safety features are included on this bike. This is something that Electric Bike Company does really well, and we have to give them props for how thorough they are. They really do consider things down to every tiny detail, and I think that makes all the difference in the world. With the speeds at which e-bikes are capable of traveling, it's crucial that they have effective brakes. To test brake systems, we pedal every e-bike we test up to 20 miles per hour and then hit the brakes to stop as quickly as we can while still maintaining control. We measure the distance it takes the bike to stop, then repeat that process 2 more times, and this allows us to calculate an average stopping distance from those results. In the last section, I mentioned the Model A's Bengal Aries hydraulic disc brakes. Again, these include 180mm rotors on both wheels. These brakes performed very well, giving the bike an average stopping distance of just 18 feet 3 inches. This is better than any cruiser-style e-bike we've tested so far, and even slightly better than our running average, which includes all of the e-bikes we've tested. We were pleasantly surprised with this result, as well as with the Model A's overall feel while braking. We noticed that the bike's rear wheel did have a tendency to lock up and slide a bit, but even when this happened, the bike felt remarkably stable. For our circuit test, we pedal every e-bike that we test around a 1-mile loop made up of 4 right turns and a small 30-foot hill. We do this first with no assistance from the motor and then again in each pedal assist setting. This gives us an idea of the bike's motor engagement, its handling, and its speeds at different PAS settings. Before we get into our findings on the circuit test, I want to be upfront about the fact that we didn't test the bike in the same way that it's meant to be used. As I said earlier, Electric Bike Company designed the Model A to rely heavily on its throttle until it gets up to speed. If we would have performed our testing this way, we would have had much less of an idea of the difference the motor's input actually makes. So with no motor assistance, the Model A was pretty difficult to pedal around our first lap due to its single-speed drivetrain and that huge chainring. Even on the small incline that our test circuit includes, I had to stand up in order to get enough leverage to even turn the cranks. Things didn't change a whole lot with the bike in PAS1, but in PAS2 I noticed that the motor did help out a lot more once the cadence sensor engaged, at least on the circuit's flat sections. It wasn't until PAS4 though that I felt a lot more comfortable on that 30-foot hill. That said, all of this makes sense when considering the way the Model A is intended to be operated. I was pretty surprised by how zippy the bike felt in its higher PAS settings, especially PAS5. The motor was definitely pumping out a lot of power, and there was a very noticeable difference between the low and the high end of its assistance levels. The bike's chainring provided some flexibility in PAS4 and 5 as well. I could relax and just ghost pedal if I wanted to, or I could choose to pedal a little faster to add in some of my own power. All in all, the Model A's setup makes sense, and we're pretty happy with its variation in motor assistance. We also noticed during some separate testing that the bike's throttle speed is also controlled by its pedal assist system, which is a really nice feature that makes it easy to keep a consistent speed when you're just relying on the motor to move you along. Our range test is actually two separate trials where we pedal the bike until its battery runs out. The first test is done in the lowest pedal assist setting that provides constant input from the motor, and the second is done with maximum assistance. For each test, we measure the distance the bike was able to travel, and we compare that to the range advertised by the bike's manufacturer. Again, for this test, we relied only on pedal assistance and did not make use of the bike's throttle. This likely affected our results a little bit, but considering that we don't often need to stop and start back up very often on our range tests, the difference should be relatively small. Also, considering our circuit test results, we felt the PAS1 was not necessarily a practical setting for this test, so we performed our range tests in PAS2 and PAS5. With the minimum level of practical assistance in PAS2, we traveled a pretty impressive 54.2 miles. In the Model A's maximum pedal assist setting, we made it 30.3 miles. And if we compare this to the range advertised by Electric Bike Company, which is 50 miles, our test results look great. Most e-bike companies who perform similar tests do so in the lowest pedal assist setting, so considering that we bumped that up to PAS2, we're very happy. Also, considering the Model A's 576 watt-hour battery, we got quite a bit more time and mileage than we expected. This means that the bike's motor and battery pairing are pretty efficient overall. One final point before we move on, I want to call attention to the fact that all Electric Bike Company batteries are UL certified. This means that the batteries are tested to meet certain specifications and are therefore more safe. These days, it's not uncommon to hear a lot of misinformation about e-bike batteries causing problems, so UL certification is just an additional level of security for your peace of mind. To test every bike's hill climbing ability, we take them to a local hill called Hellhole, which is a steep but paved path that's a third of a mile long with an average grade of 12%. This is a pretty serious challenge for most e-bikes, and some don't make it all the way to the top. We do this test both in the max pedal assist setting and with just the throttle to see if a bike has what it takes to make the climb. With just its throttle, the Model A crawled to the top in 1 minute and 59 seconds with an average speed of 9.1 miles per hour. This is admittedly on the slow side of things, but we have to give it kudos for actually making it up the hill, and on top of that, it's not uncommon for throttle test results to be slower than those with some human power. In PAS5, the Model A performed much better with a time of 1 minute and 21 seconds from bottom to top, and an average speed of 13.4 miles per hour. Interestingly, these results line up very well with some of the other Electric Bike Company bikes we've tested, which establishes consistency between their motors. Overall, these results suggest that the Model A might not break any speed records, but it will be able to handle just about anything you throw at it. The Electric Bike Company Model A proved itself to be respectably capable in our series of tests, and despite the slight limitations placed on it by its price, it still has quite a lot to offer. We love that Electric Bike Company was able to cram so many features into this bike while also bringing its price down to a more accessible level. We especially appreciate their level of thoughtfulness that extends down to all of the bike's little details and safety features, as well as the high quality that comes from such a personalized, hands-on process. On top of that, the Model A benefits from the amazing warranty that Electric Bike Company extends to all of their bikes. This includes 10 years on their motors and frames, 5 years on their batteries, and even 30 days on their paint jobs. While the Model A is currently the least customizable model in the brand's lineup, it really doesn't feel like it's missing out on a whole lot, and when Electric Bike Company eventually combines the Model X and the Model A, the bike's current setup will still be a great starting point that you'll be able to build on to meet your needs and your budget. We do think that the Model A's cockpit layout could be improved for better looks and easier access to all the bike's functions, but this is a pretty minor concern overall. As it stands, we think the Model A is a great budget-friendly option for casual rides around the neighborhood, cruising on the boardwalk, or commuting to work or school. Thanks for sticking with me this far. If you'd like to read more about our experiences on the bike, please check out the link to the written review in the video description. You'll also find a link to the Electric Bike Company website where you can check current pricing on the Model A and pick one up for yourself. Before we go, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help us to grow and share more content. We'd love to hear from you in the comments section too, so let us know if you have any questions and what you thought about our review. That's all for today. Again, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and this is the Electric Bike Company Model A.